Hi everybody, thank you for joining me. I hope you're having a great Christmas or have had a great Christmas if you're watching this a few days after it comes out. This is going to be my last video for 2022, so I wish you all a very happy new year as well. And I thought I'd round off the year by just having a look at my favourite things that I've bought during 2022. It's nearly all vinyl. There's a few bits and bobs of CDs in here as well. It was going to be a top 10 and then I realised it's a bit too Beatley weighted, so I thought I'll increase it to a top 15, but no more Beatles related stuff gets in when I expand it to 15, and there's one bonus item as well. Not going to particularly do these in any order, but I will save what I think is number one until the very last. So grab yourself a drink if you haven't already. Let's just have a relaxing few minutes. I'll try and put some links to things as well if possible, if there's any of this that interests you. But yeah, as I say, in no particular order, favourite things that I have bought in 2022. So this is a 25th anniversary reissue of REM's New Adventure in Hi-Fi. Worth pointing out that not all of these things are albums from this year. Some of them might have been released years ago, and I only just got round to buying them this year. Some might be brand new albums this year, some might be brand new re-releases this year, so it's a mixture of everything. But this came out, I think, a couple of years ago, 2021 this came out. As I say, it's a 25th anniversary remaster, mid-90s album. This was the follow-up to Monster. Monster was the tour that I saw REM on, the only time I ever saw REM live, and they kind of made this album sort of on the road really as they were touring the album. You can tell that a lot of the songs have got different vibes to each other, as though they were recorded in different places as they were. But this sounds great. It's kind of a long sprawling album. Not all of it's amazing, but when it's good, it's fantastic. So I don't really talk about REM much, but I am a big REM fan, and this is one of those that was right in that period where I was heavily listening to an awful lot of them. So I was really pleased to pick that up earlier this year. This next one, really happy to have this. This is a 50th anniversary reissue, Gil Scott Heron, Pieces of a Man. And this just came out a couple of months ago. I think it was probably October when I got this, very soon after it came out. They did an all analog reissue of this album from, I think, is it from 1971 or 72? It's around that time. All analog. They got hold of the original master tapes. There's no digital in this at all. As a result, it sounds absolutely superb. I didn't know until I mentioned on Twitter that I'd got this album. A couple of people pointed out to me that apparently his dad was the first ever black player for Celtic. I didn't know that. So nice bit of trivia there. But this is a wonderful album, very sort of funky, soulful. It's got a surprising amount of flute on it, but The Revolution Will Not Be Televised, which is the opening track on here, is an absolute stone cold classic. And that is, if you've not heard that album before, I only had it, I say only, I had a really good high-res download of it, so I was really pleased to be able to get an all analog vinyl version. Now the next two are both albums from 2022, both brand new albums, both by the same band, and both double albums. I mean, even that's pretty impressive, isn't it? 2 double albums in 1 year. It's the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So first of all, earlier on in the year, round about, I think it was about April that this came out, Unlimited Love. So it was the first time. It's the first time I've ever bought a Red Hot Chili Peppers album on release, because I'm kind of sort of catching up with them really. So this was really good to sort of get as a brand new album. There's a song on here called Poster Child, which is probably my favourite on the album, but I'm still, it's one of those, I've played this several times, still got a lot to learn about this album because it's a sprawling, big old double album. I'm going to be playing this for a long time and getting used to it, and hopefully not losing all these stickers, but as you can see, it's a limited edition blue vinyl, which is nice. Should we just get one of those out? Just have a little look, might as well while we're here, right? Let's get that out and have a look at that. Ooh, sexy blue vinyl. So yeah, I keep coming back to that. And then they sort of said at the time that they had enough material for another double album that might come soon, and you thought, yeah, whatever. You're not going to release a second double album, are you, in the same year? And then they did. Return of the Dream Canteen. Now, so far, I think I actually prefer this album. I think it's got a little bit more to it that will keep me coming back. There's a good song on here called Eddie, which is a tribute to Eddie Van Halen, but that's beautiful artwork. Look at that. And on the back, very, very nice. Lovely gatefold as well. Just a beautiful package, really. This was just the regular black vinyl I think I got on this one. There was colour options, but starting to get a bit expensive. So I think it is pretty incredible. I mean, even the Beatles didn't release 2 double albums in 1 year. It's quite a feat. I don't expect to get any new albums from them in the near future. But again, I've got a lot of learning to do with this album, and I will play it a lot more than I have. I've probably played the album through 4 or 5 times so far. I want to keep going back to it because there's just so much to learn. This next one, this isn't an album that came out this year. It wasn't a reissue this year. It's just one I happened to pick up this year. And you might think, well, why is this made a top 15? John and Yoko, Milk and Honey, the album that came out after John's death, the songs that he was working on at the time, and of course plenty of Yoko songs on here. So normally this would just be a nice, oh, I'm glad to get this on vinyl, nice one for the collection. But the thing is, this just sounds so damn good. And it's not one of those where I can quantify why. Sometimes, you know, it's a particular, it's from a particular pressing plant, or it's been mastered by somebody in particular. I don't think this follows any of those particular rules of what you would class as a great pressing. But it just sounds superb. So I've been really getting into Milk and Honey. I mean, I've known the album for 30 years, but I've been really enjoying this year. And things like I'm Stepping Out, nobody told me obviously is a classic anyway. Borrowed Time in particular, I'd say Borrowed Time is one of the big songs for me for this whole year, even though again I've known it for 32 years since I bought my first Lennon box set with this in, with that song in. It's really kind of hit me this year. So I think just based on how great it sounds, Milk and Honey was able to get in my top 15 for the year. Next pile of vinyl, and then we start on the proper box sets after this. So this was a pickup from my local record shop, Revolution Records in Selby. This and various other things. I did do a video on this at the time, but I managed to get, it's beat up, it's battered, I don't care. It's an original Concert for Bangladesh, George Harrison and Friends. You can see the tape that's holding it together. But to me, that adds to kind of the charm of the fact that this is a 50-plus year old record. I've spent quite a lot of time with Concert for Bangladesh this year with the DVD and this album. I'm still really hoping that Danny Harrison delivers on his suggestion that he's working on a revamped version, which would be great. But for now, hopefully forever, I'm happy to have an original 1971 Concert for Bangladesh on vinyl with all its lived-in beauty, because that's not something I expected to get. Walked into a shop, saw it, I'll have that at a very good price. Now this next one, this is an album that came out in 1999. I bought the CD on the day, as many of you will as well. It is the Beatles. What came out in 99? It was Yellow Submarine Songtrack. I finally picked it up on vinyl just a few months ago. And it's those great remixes, really the kind of template for how good a Beatles remix could be. And obviously some of those songs have been superseded by newer remixes now, even just this year with some of the Revolver tracks. But these remixes are great. Some of the versions on here of, especially like the Rubber Soul songs, like Nowhere Man, for example, just sound superb on here and make you really sort of look forward to what a Rubber Soul remix could sound like if Giles and Sam do it properly, as I trust they will. But yeah, I'd never had this on vinyl until this year, so lovely gatefold opening there. And I played it, bought it, came home, played it straight away. Absolutely loved the sound of it. It's one of those where it makes you realise that, oh yeah, the vinyl is, you know, the CD's good, but the vinyl, when you get it right, it's a cut above. The next one is a 2022 album. It just came out in, I think it was October. I think it was the week before Revolver came out. And it was the brand new album by Arctic Monkeys, The Car. So I picked this up within a few days of it coming out. And why do I particularly like this one and have it in my top 15? Well, I think it's the anticipation of a new Arctic Monkeys album, which is something I do look forward to. The fact that I've got a ticket to go and see this in Sheffield, in their hometown, which is next June, I think it is. My daughter's going 2 days in a row. The second day will be with me. I'm hoping we can get up against the front barrier like we did last time we went to see Arctic Monkeys in Sheffield. We had to get there 3.5 hours early to secure that place. This album has got no rockers on it whatsoever. It's very much kind of a follow-on to the previous album in terms of style. Tranquility, Bass, Hotel and Casino. My favourite song on this is Jet Skis on the Moat, but this is a very laid-back album. Jet Skis on the Moat to me sounds like if you could put David Bowie's voice on top of it, it would sound very kind of Young Americans era. But it's it's a nice relaxing album. But I would like to see them get back to a little bit of a rock vein at some point fairly soon. Next one, I was really happy to get hold of this. This isn't from this year. This is from the 70s. I don't know when the re-release came out. 1976 originally, this album. But this is a music on vinyl pressing of Jaco Pastorius. I already had it on CD. But when I saw that there was a music on vinyl version that I could get for about 20 quid, I pounced. If you don't know Jaco, he is probably one of the great bass players ever. Jazz and funk type bass. There's a little bit of singing on here on some of the songs, but not a great deal. It's mainly instrumental. Sounds fantastic. What a groove. And if you like a bit of sort of funky slap bass, you cannot go wrong with some Jaco Pastorius. Sounds incredible, does that one. This next one is the only one in this list that wasn't bought by me. This was a Christmas present. So as I sit here now, it's the 27th of December, so I've had this 2 days. This was a Christmas present from my daughter, the new Tears for Fears album, The Tipping Point. So this is the first new Tears for Fears material that I've got to know since Sowing the Seeds of Love, or the Seeds of Love album from 1989. They did other things after that, but that kind of passed me by a bit. So I've been really enjoying this album on Amazon Music over the last few months digitally, but I played this on Christmas Day. I had a few minutes to myself on Christmas Day, played this. Sounds superb. I really like this album. So I've also spent some time with Julian Lennon's new album, Jude, and I think there's quite a lot of similarities in style with this, but this is a cut above for me in terms of quality. I was supposed to go and see them back in July, so when I started listening to this album when it was new, I thought, yeah, I want to go and see them on the tour. Unfortunately, the night before I was due to go, the whole tour got cancelled because Kurt broke several ribs. I'm still not quite sure how he did it, but he was out of action for ages. The whole tour was cancelled, so I still haven't seen them live. But I was really looking forward to that. But if you've not heard this, I'm probably going to say that this is my favourite album of 2022 in terms of new albums. It's up there with the Chili Peppers, definitely. Probably ahead of Arctic Monkeys, I think. But probably Tears for Fears just tips it for me as my favourite album released this year. But me being the old fart that I am, I've not really scratched the surface of anything released this year. So I'm sure plenty of you know far more stuff that's been released this year than I do. The last regular vinyl, before I get into some box sets, was the half-speed reissue of Wildlife that came out, I think it was in February that this came out, early February if I remember correctly, with the familiar strip down the side that we've had on these half-speed remaster campaigns, but this one being green. There's a nice sort of range of colours been released on here. I've really enjoyed this series of half-speed remasters. They've been, I don't want to use the phrase mixed bag because generally they've been great. I think the McCartney one is just absolutely the best version I've ever heard, and it is just absolutely fantastic. REM, I think, takes a little bit more getting used to because it's a bit more kind of extreme in the separation. So it's great, but it's a bit jarring and it takes some getting used to. This is kind of a nice middle ground, I think, between the two, where it does sound superb. It's got great separation, but it's probably not quite as jarring as the REM half speed. But if you can still find a copy of that somewhere and you haven't got it yet, I would really recommend getting hold of that. Okay, so we are on to some box sets now. Let's go here first of all. So there's two of the same. I do seem to like dropping records lately, don't I, on videos? Revolver, the vinyl box set and the CD box set. Now, I've done Revolver to death this year in videos, so I'm not going to spend too long on here. I know I was quite critical of certain aspects of this release in my videos, certainly around certain things to do with quality control and value for money. So I have kind of laid into these boxes a bit, but ultimately, when all's said and done, it's a flipping box set of Revolver. Look at it. Look at it. It's beautiful. It's got a great book with it. We've got the mono version of Revolver, which was a great bonus for many people who didn't have that from the mono box set a few years ago. We've got some great sessions in here. We've got some great artwork in here. It is a great set. There's just some annoyances about it that kind of let it down a little bit. But it absolutely sails towards the top end of my top 15 buys of the year. What will we get in 2023 from the Beatles? Well, we don't know yet. We could all have a fairly good guess. I am going to do a video shortly on my sort of predictions for 2023 from the Beatles and solo members of, which I've done for the past few years. It should almost certainly be my first video for 2023. I've got some thoughts, especially around one particular aspect that I think they're going to have to be very careful how they handle it. Because they could annoy a lot of people if they do it wrong. That's a little spoiler alert for you for a future video anyway. Now this next one, this is something I didn't think I would ever get. I saw it on eBay. I put a cheeky bid in that I thought would never win. And blow me, it did. It's the Bob Dylan Telltale Signs Volume 8 Big 3 CD box set. This is really hard to get hold of. It was quite limited on its release in 2008, I think it was, that it first came out. It was pretty limited. I wasn't in the market for big box sets like this back then, so I wouldn't have bought it at the time. Managed to get hold of it this year. Really pleased about that. Mainly because of that third disc there. Disc 3, I'll just show you a close-up of that. This box set is the only place you can get that third disc, so it's really rare. This covers the period 1989 through to 2006, so kind of Oh Mercy through to modern times. Some of his albums aren't represented here, like there's nothing from Love and Theft on here, there's nothing from Good As I've Been to You, and there was one other album that wasn't represented here. I forget now which one it was. But some great books in here. There's a book here, Bob Dylan Single Sleeves, which is a bit odd because it's not really reflective of the time period that the box set's about. But it just shows you all sort of single sleeves from all over the world, going right back to the start of Dylan's career, really early stuff. So it's a superb book, is that. Like I say, a bit unexpected for it to appear in this box set that's from a completely different time period, but I ain't complaining. It's a great book. This is number 14 now. This is, like I said, not in any particular order apart from the fact that I'm leaving my favourite till last. I did finally manage to get the 8 LP version of George Harrison's All Things Must Pass 50th anniversary edition. A few months ago, it came down to a price that I couldn't ignore, and I think I had a 40 quid voucher as well. So I ended up actually paying about £60 for this, which I was really happy with. The bonus tracks are fantastic on here. The remix itself is a mixture of absolutely superb and things where you think, oh, I prefer the original on that. My Sweet Lord being an example that just doesn't seem to have quite have the impact. But the quieter songs like If Not For You, Behind That Locked Door, I don't think have ever sounded better than on this version. You get a great book with this as well. Again, I did do a video on this at the time showing everything, so I don't need to go into detail again. But that was a really good one for me to pick up this year. Before I move on to my number one purchase of 2022, thank you for watching, by the way, I've got one bonus item, and I'm classing it as a bonus item because it doesn't actually have any music. But let me just grab this. Oh, this is one where I need to make sure again that I don't drop everything. Again, I did a video on this at the time, but finally, 35 years or so after it was released, didn't think I would ever own it. I finally managed to get the Beatles Bread Bin, or as it's officially titled, the Connoisseurs Cabinet. I showed in my video the original adverts for this when it came out, and that's what it was advertised as, Connoisseurs Cabinet. You could buy it for 30 quid, and it's got all the 1987 Beatles CDs in there. Just show you those. They're all in. They're my CDs that I've had since, I started buying them in 1990. I probably bought every one of those in 1990, to be honest. So they were mine anyway. I bought the empty box, which I was really pleased about. Look at that. Ooh, it's lovely. I did actually break this a while ago. I found out that, how is it all held together? It's held together with gaffer tape underneath. I don't know if you can... I really need to stop doing this, don't I? I need to start being more careful. It's okay. They're all fine. Unbelievable. It's held together with gaffer tape, which you can just see a little bit poking out there. The gaffer tape had failed after 34 years. Not as much as I've failed in the last minute of this video, but replaced the gaffer tape and it's as good as new. So there you go. Well, there you go. If you want to laugh at my expense, the fact that I've just dropped all my Beatles CDs all over the floor, as I seem to make a habit of doing lately, there you go. But that was a bonus item because it didn't actually come with any music. But the number one purchase of 2022, let me just get this. Some of you will know what this is going to be. I better not drop this. The number one purchase of 2022 is, of course, God, it's heavy, the McCartney 7-inch Singles Box. Again, I did a big old video on this. It was about an hour and a half where I went through all 80 discs. But if you've not seen that, let me just take this lid off. Let me be more careful than I've ever been about anything in my life. I'm going to lift this up here and show you there's all 80 singles in there. I am not going to drop these. I am not going to drop them. It's fantastic. You can see my number there, box number 2334 out of 3000. I think it's number one just not only because of how great it is, but also because of how unexpected it is. None of us had a clue that this was happening at all. I know there's been some criticisms about the fact that some people missed out on it. There was 3,000 of these printed worldwide, and people saying, well, why don't they make more? Just make more. I don't think it's as simple as that, to be honest. I certainly don't think that they're making as much profit on each of these boxes as what some people are saying. I think it's probably relatively, well, it's a really expensive item. It's maybe a relatively limited profit on each box potentially. And if they were left with loads of these unsold, that would just mean that this whole project would have been loss making, and you can probably forget about various other projects in the future. They seem to have found a limit of 3,000 units for McCartney that they can do for things like this and the Wings 1971-73 box. I think they know that they can sell 3,000. What they maybe don't know is how successfully could they sell 4,000, 5,000, 6,000. And if they get left with 500 or 1,000 in a warehouse, then it may well mean that the whole project loses money. And if that happens, then they're not going to do more projects. So that is my number one purchase of 2022, which I'm really happy about. If you've got any of these, you've got any comments about it, let me know as always in the comments down below. And that's it for me for 2022. I hope you've had a good year. I wish you a very happy new year for 2023. I'll be back very soon with loads more videos, including my Beatles predictions for 23. I will see you very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.